All right. Let's take a look at the day 16 application. All right, so first we're going to have this auxiliary view. This is going to be very similar to how the examples were. Just now we have a hole going through, right? We know that's a hole because we can see circles here, but we also see that center line going through. So that tells us it's a hole. And from the looks of it, the reason you'd have an auxiliary view here is so you can see this hole normal on this inclined line. And so as you transfer this object over, it should be a perfect circle, right? This hole is going to look like a perfect circle over here. All right, so now for the SolidWorks. The SolidWorks, I'm not going to lie, a little tricky. Uh, but as you can see by what I have over here, it can be done in relatively few features. Like, I mean, for example, we have 5 total features here. And, I'm not perfect, and you may even be able to do it in fewer. But, this is going to need some thought because what we have here, let's take a look. Um, right, we have a few different features that we're going to need. We obviously are going to need a shell, we're going to need some sort of sweep, and we're going to have to be mindful of how this is being constructed. I actually, as I was making this example, I thought of, better ways to be more efficient. Like if I made this again, I think I could make it better, and with fewer features even than I have now. Um, but if we're taking a look here, so let's see what we got. So we obviously have this shell happening at the bottom, and then this sort of sweep, and then there are these connections between what's happening here. And this should be one solid body, which means that, there's nothing interrupting the flow of material right all the way through here. It's one solid piece. Um, but there's going to be kind of some multi-body action in here as we're building it. So I'm just going to kind of run through because I think this is a little tricky. So if you're getting caught up, you might be watching this video hoping for me to explain a little bit, which is exactly what I'm going to do. So first we did a revolve. You might think, oh, I'll just do the bottom first. But you can do the revolve and you can do both these pieces in the revolve. So if we take a look here, we can do both these sketches, right? And then we don't have to revolve that circle later because we're given all the dimensions we want to it. We're given how high everything is. We have that 300 here from where the midpoint of that circle is, or that sphere, excuse me, to the bottom. And so we're able to figure that out pretty easy. Um, and for the shell, it's not going to affect the shell at all because as we come out of here, let me exit that sketch. As we come out, they're both solid bodies, right? This is still solid. And then we just apply shell to what's happening down here. Um, and then again, then I just made a sweep. So for this, just to look at it real quick, let's look at the sketch. That's what I want to see. Because you might, as I'm about to click on this sketch, you can see that there's, we got some funky stuff happening here. So let's take a look. Before we do this, so the way I thought about it is I said, all right, so I have this 15 degree here, I have this 23 degree here, this 50 degree. I'm not worried about that 23 now because we're going to build that later, that little piece. Um, but this 50 degree, that 50 and that 15 are going to be what's important. And you'll notice when you go to, when we go into this sketch, you're going to see I have a lot of planes happening. I have a lot of axes happening here, but there's not actually that much going on once we take a look at it. I mean, we have what, 4 dimensions, um, and that 187.5, that's just taken straight over from that divided by 2, right? And it's given as the diameter here, but we're going to give it, SolidWorks wants it in a radius because it's not a full circle. And basically, because you can't dimension angles, like if you clicked this point, say if you didn't have these lines, right? All these lines I put in here, and these are just construction lines set for infinite length, and I have them going through the center of the circle. Um, but if you don't have these, right, you can't choose a degree to have it end at, right? So you want to have these lines that go through, and just with a few simple relationships, you can have them intersect the point that you want them to intersect at, and then also the middle. And from there, that's what allows you to get these angles in here, and that's it might be confusing at first, but that's why we give you these angles because it's very easy to know exactly when to stop. Um, So then if we're coming back here, let's take a look at what this looks like now, right? And we can just, this is a super easy sweep because it defaults actually no, it defaults to 10. We have to input 25. Um, but because these are construction lines, these are not going to get swept, right? SolidWorks knows that those are just there for our dimensioning purposes. And so because of that, it knows that we just want this middle piece. So let's get out of that sweep. And you can see right here, if I'm back here, right, imagine I don't have everything done here, right? You can see we actually have 3 solid bodies. And that's why this is kind of a multi-body part, because you're going to utilize having different solid bodies, right? We can create sketches that are that are dimension to each other, like, right? Like all these things are fully defined. Um, you know, everything here is fully defined, but they're all floating in space, and we can do that. Um, so it's just, I'm building it piece by piece, and now we're going to connect them. And now it's when it gets a little tricky. That was kind of, that was the easier part. Um, so now I'm just going to do a little extrude down here, right? I just drew a circle and it goes up to next. And if you have it at the same size as this, right? Which if we look at the drawing is going to be, where is that written? It's right here, 25 typical, which means that, right, this is going to be 25, this is going to be 25, as well as that. Everything's going to be 25. If you set those all to be 25, right, it comes straight up and they end, it's going to end perfectly up there. And they're going to flow into each other. So that was easy, right? And now we only have 2 solid bodies, right? Because this is connected to this. And if we have our, right, they wouldn't be 2 solid bodies if we didn't merge the result. Okay, that's an important thing to have clicked. And that basically, what that setting does is that it allows SolidWorks to know that as soon as we hit this up to next, it should be making these one solid piece, right? So we can even take a look at this real quick and we can see, we can look through half of it. Right? And so we see, ignore the little blue there, that's my computer being bad. But we can see how, right, this grain goes right through. This is all one solid piece. So now let's take a look here. I don't know why it gives me the look of maple when, no, it's because it's all cylindrical, I bet. Anyway, yeah, but it should be right there. Never mind, I digress. And now we need to connect the top part, right? This is, I think, the most challenging part of this problem, right? Because we have this known angle of 23.5, and you could do some reference plane, what I'm going to call reference plane manipulation. So we could come here with some reference planes and choose, the bottom plane down here and, I don't know, the surface, right? And you could think, or excuse me, not that face. You're right, we could use this edge and, you could say, oh, it's about, it's about here. Why am I getting, I need to go the other way around. I'm doing something dumb. It's late at night, excuse me. Right, you could have them intersect in a kind of funky way. We're going to disregard that. That didn't just work. You could have them intersect in a funky way, and you could do some plane manipulation, but it's actually a little challenging. So I'll show you what I did. This is one way to do it. I would really recommend, I'm going to say it, no one's going to do it, but I'm just going to recommend it. I'm really going to recommend having you go and try this on your own before you solve it in the way I did. I want to help you guys, and I want you guys to succeed, and, part of that is, thinking about it in your own way. And there are just like everything in SolidWorks, there are so many ways to solve the problem. So you should really try solving it on your own before you resort to doing it the way, or doing it in a similar way to I did. But, if you're really stuck, follow along after here, and we'll get it. But really try it on your own. See how you can manipulate. Try reference plane, try axes, try and create the correct reference geometry to get that angle at the top right there, right? Because we want something going right through there so we can identify it. But let's take a look at what I did. So first I made a sketch. The sketch was very simple. And if we come in here, you see it's a construction line, right? And it is this 113. You're wondering where that 113 is coming from. That is 90 degrees, right? Because if we're coming from the bottom, we have 90 degrees up to here, plus 23.5. So that's where you get that 113.5. And right, we can select the middle of this line to be vertical with the origin, right? So we know it's going right through the sphere. And now I'm getting the look of maple again, but it doesn't, never mind. All right, so I've made that, okay? And then I made a, what did I make after that? Let's see. Then I made a plane. Where's that plane? Okay, so this plane if we look at how this plane was made, this is now getting into the reference geometry part of it. I used that line I just drew, right, that construction line, and then I used this surface, and you can see it's made a plane that's tangent to the sphere here, and perpendicular, or kind of going normal to straight into this face. Not this face, sorry, this this plane, excuse me. And so because of that, let me make that visible so we can see it too. Oh, that's why the red thing went away. Never mind. So we can see both these. That's how I made that plane. And then I turned this guy, right, this guy into an axis. And what that allows us to do is that allows us to relate to it, right? Because we can't set, if you're sketching on this plane, you can't set relationships between what you draw to another sketch's line. So I turned it into an axis, and what I just did for that, super, super easy, is I just chose the axis. So what you do is you come up here and you choose axis, and then I just clicked on this line. And what that does is it turns this line, so if we hide this and show this, we see that we now have an axis in its place, and it's bright blue, which tells us it's a reference geometry. And you can see it's labeled axis number 4, because I tried this a few times beforehand. So once we have this axis in, now we can just draw on this face, right? On this plane, I mean. Because this plane is in the right degrees, right? Because we measured that all out, and now the axis is turned into it. So our last little extrude is coming in here, right? And we draw a circle, right? We set that to be, on that axis. The axis runs through the center of it. Again, it's 25 because we have that 25 typical. And then for the extrude, let's come through here. For the extrude, right, we're coming up to next on both sides, and that's it. One direction, two direction, and up to next for both, and that's going to mean it's just going to come up to the next surface, and they're merging, right? They're merging, and so with this final piece of the puzzle, we have one solid body, right? We have this one big piece here, and obviously, whenever you hand anything in, you're going to want to hide these planes and stuff. You want to look really pretty. So let's. Did I just hide that? No, I didn't. Plane 4. Let's hide you. Okay, look at that. Okay, so that is all done. I created a sketch somehow. All right. So that is the globe there. If you're really feeling spicy, you can go into your appearances here, and you can set an appearance. You could put the Earth on this globe or something fun. That'd be pretty cool. Be cooler if you did. But okay, that's how you do this part. I really would stress that if you watch this video, I don't assume you followed along the first time. But I would really recommend you trying this on your own first. It's a challenging piece, but once you get it, it's pretty satisfying. So I would try it on your own. Come back to this video if you have any questions or problems. A few parts, I don't want to get everyone to get hung up and stuck, and we're obviously teaching online now, so it's harder to ask questions and stuff like that. But that's how I did this piece. Yeah, if you have any questions, ask your instructor. Come back to this video, take a look. Again, please try it on your own first, and then maybe try what I did if you get stuck in a few places. But that is the day 16 application.